So COD Zombies is controversial to say the least, with fans either loving the new way of things and thinking that if you want to change, half your brain is melted, and the other half just wanting the old way of things back, and hoping that if you like the new systems, you get hit by a bus. Now here's the thing, it's so easy to just say, remove all the features and make it like old zombies, just port all the Black Ops 3 to the new game. Which gets me to the entire purpose of this video. Today, we're fixing COD Zombies. And so the goal of this video is to think of what might be realistic for the devs to actually add or change, with basically keeping the systems that are there in the game, but making them look and feel more like zombies. And so with all that said, we're better to start than the most controversial system we've ever had. Loadouts. So the problem with them is it makes the game way too easy and it just feels boring and not like zombies. So how do we make it harder? Well, you can adjust how it's acquired with something like a loadout locker, where you can set your loadout weapon that's going to be in a locker that you can purchase for a set amount of points, or they can make it like Warzone, where you start with a pistol and you have to get your loadout drop. And maybe you could buy it with salvage at the crafting table, or maybe even just make it a one-time crafting option. But that's not the only way. They could also just nerf the crap out of the loadout tier. You could just essentially make it so that all loadout guns take about a half a clip to kill one zombie on round one, and maybe have all of them to have like 2 mags in reserve. And so loadouts are still going to be there, but we'd be going from what's almost an insta-kill on round one with pretty much every single gun to one that needs to be upgraded to be realistically kept. And so then, you know, people that want to grind camos or do that kind of stuff, the loadouts are still going to be there, but it's not going to affect the core gameplay loop. Or you could just make it so that loadouts do have a downside, with something like maybe pack-a-punch prices for them being more expensive. So yes, you could start the game with your XM4, but it's going to be more expensive to upgrade it. So you're actually going to be incentivized to maybe try to hit the box, or try to look for it as a wall gun. And so with all that said, how do we make it feel more like zombies? One of which, of course, being the buried wall chalk. It could be in the spawn room or a set point around the map like power. Basically, the loadout would be a personalized wall gun, and this would encourage players to open up the map and play strategically on early rounds. I mean, they could even just make it a wall buy in the spawn room and just adjust the price of it based on the type of weapon. So a pistol could be 500, SMG snipers 1,000, ARs 1,500, LMG 2,000. Like, I mean, think about like Buried, where we had the 𝘿𝙤𝙤𝙢𝙢𝙪𝙾 on the wall in the spawn room, but it was like 4,000 points. Imagine if it was something like that. But of course, my personal favorite, my gobblegum idea, locked and loaded. It would be a classic gobblegum that essentially guarantees your loadout gun your first spin at the box. So you would have to open up the map to the box and a gobblegum machine, and then boom, you got your gun. All right, with loadouts out of the way, let's touch on the Wunderfizz. So my problem with this is that you just spam A and right on the D-pad, you buy every perk in the game as long as you've got enough points. Essentially making getting perks super easy and making all of the perk machines practically useless. So I think a map that did this really well was actually D-Machine. Essentially what it did is that it locked the Wunderfizz machine behind a round cap. I think it was about like 10 rounds after you turned on the power or got the pack-a-punch. And so realistically, you wouldn't even see the machine until about round 15. Another way they could do it is to limit the amount that you can get per round. Whereas before I suggested 1, I think that might be too little, so maybe cut it down to like 3 per round. So you can get a couple of them there, but if you want to get all the perks on one round, you actually have to go to most of the machines. But I think my favorite idea is actually just to increase the base price overall, making all of the Wunderfizz perks cost 1,000 more points than if you were to buy it at the machine. So if you have no perks, if you go to buy Jug at the Wunderfizz, it's going to be 3,500 rather than 2,500, which again gives you this kind of risk-reward mechanic, which I think is a central part of zombies and the core gameplay loop. And so next up, I want to talk about the zombie drops and the mini-map. So there's actually 2 perks I think that would really help with these systems. One of which helping with the salvage and equipment drops being 𝘿𝙤𝙤𝙢𝙪𝙾. You know, it used to kind of have that exact same mechanic, but it was a perk buff. And so essentially zombies would drop nothing by default, but if you had 𝘿𝙤𝙤𝙦, it would allow you to start earning salvage as well as getting random equipment off the zombies, and also maybe having them glow a bit like they used to. And then the other perk I was mentioning was death perception and how it could help with the minimap. So you could have the minimap off by default, but then buying death perception would actually grant you access to that. But another cool thing they could do is just make the minimap something that's craftable. So again, kind of what you had to do in the D-Machine Easter egg. If players really need it or really want it, it should be a reward for exploring the map, kind of how like the shield used to be. Or think about even if just the minimap was something you could buy in the spawn for like 1,000 points. So if you're new to the game, it might be worth a buy, but if you're experienced, you could actually save some money. And so it encourages people to actually learn the map. But how do we make it feel more like zombies? I don't know, maybe we can, instead of calling it the minimap, call it something like Aether Vision and give it like a dark ether purple style or something. Or if you make it a part of death perception, you could just style it to make it look in that style of the perk machine, where it has that kind of gothic feel with like blood dripping off of it. I don't even like the minimap, but I might even turn it on if it looks cool. But on to the next thing I want to talk about, ammo. So the problem with ammo is that it's way too cheap and accessible, and again, it doesn't look like zombies. It's just like a supply drop. It's just so first off, it needs a price increase, at least 1,000. Like for the base buying of ammo, just the fact that it's low as it is actually insane. 250 is just, it should not be that. Now, if they were to increase the base price by a lot, I think what would be cool is that if they made it so that if you bought a gun off the wall, you could actually go back to that gun and get ammo for half price. so essentially giving wall guns another purpose again. Or they should just make it that you get a buff if you bought the gun off the wall. And so for the rest of the game, if you've done that, it's half price at any ammo box. Or even if they make the prices super high, like 5,000 or something, then they could also just add Codename Pizza's idea for making ammo cheaper during a fire sale. But that's not the only thing that we can do. We can also nerf the ammo reserve total. Now I think this would do a ton, but you could also make up for it a little bit by having a lot more ammo a part of a perk augment, like something like Deadshot. It can maybe give you like a Bandolier Bandit effect, where it increases your reserve ammo. Now actually one of my favorite ideas is locking ammo based on rarity. So essentially with this, increasing your rarity would make ammo more affordable. And so I think this would be more balanced and also make rarities more unique and interesting. If it's red loadout tier, you just can't purchase any ammo for it. If it's green, it's 2,500, blue 2,000, purple 1,500, and then the orange one 1,000. Or another one of my favorite ideas is to just increase the price of ammo based on the actual type of the gun. So it would actually incentivize you to spawn with weaker guns. So there's a bit of, again, risk and reward. Pistols may be costing 500, SMGs and snipers 750, AR, shotguns, LMGs 1,000. But again, aside from the balancing, how do we make it feel like zombies? Well, fun fact, for those who don't know, this was supposed to be a feature in World at War 𝙪𝙤𝙤𝙬𝙪. The original design for it was a perk machine called Ammomatic, and it would essentially allow you to spawn in a max ammo. And so in general, just imagine instead of these stupid little boxes, they were the freaking Ammomatic machine. Dude, it would be so cool. And if they were to implement that, I would actually prefer if they changed it to where you're not just buying ammo for one gun, but making it so that you're spawning in 18 max ammo. And it costs something like 10,000 points. But it allows you to do that new point sharing mechanic like they have with the doors in Black Ops 6 Zombies, so everyone can kind of chip in to help buy a team max ammo. Alright, so with ammo out of the way, let's touch on Scorestreaks. So I think how they currently work is okay, but I would really like them to kind of look kind of more how they used to. So think about the death machine from Black Ops 1 Zombies. You know, it was like a blue perk drop and it had these bullets on it. Like, imagine if every Scorestreak kind of had that kind of look to it when you went to go pick it up. And of course, I would love if the announcer said something too when you were to pick it up or pull it out. But again, going off of that, how do we make it feel like zombies even more? So here's a couple of my ideas. So think about this. The sentry turret. Make it look like it's torn up, put together with scraps and stuff like that, like it was on Transit. The napalm strike. Maybe call it the ether strike. And it's like an ether rift tear appears in the sky and it dropping ether crystals that causes like purple fire or something. With the chopper gunner, maybe just change that to something called like the Pack of the Elders, where again a rift would appear in the sky and you create a bond with like a powerful dark ether being temporarily, where you're able to use their powers to like rain hell from above. So essentially it would work this exact same mechanically, but having that zombies coat of paint, I think everyone would freaking love it. And the same thing with the Hellstorm. Like what if it was an ether storm, where again a rift would appear in the sky and you would be piloting a giant ether crystal, shooting off shards to kill zombies instead of missiles. And the thing that bothers me is we have Scorestreaks in the game that feel like zombies, like the Arc XD, the Mangler Cannon, the Mutant Injection. All of those feel like zombies, but why can't the rest? And so next up, I want to talk about Specialist. Now here's an idea that I really like. You don't spawn in with the Specialist, but the one you have selected in your loadout basically guarantees it when you do something like a legendary trial. So again, you guarantee you getting that specific one, but you don't get it off the rip. Or they can even add them kind of randomly to the mystery box. Like dude, if I hit the box and I randomly got like Ether Shroud or something like that, dude, I would be hyped. But to kind of make it feel more like zombies, they've already done this. Even though not a lot of people played Vanguard, the way the Specialist actually looked in that game was sick. It's like they all had a different look kind of fitting what that Specialist actually did. And I really think they should go back to that rather than just having it be like a magic gun. Like, why is it the fuck? Well, with that being a small little thing, here's a big little thing. The Rarity system. Now, probably my biggest issue with the Rarity system is that it's literally just the same thing as Pack-a-Punch, but just split up. But dude, if it was something different, it might be kind of sick. Maybe the lower rarities have just a normal fire rate, but as you upgrade it, it gets like 10% faster each time. Then you would actually feel like there's a significant different upgrade to your gun. And they could do the same thing with ammo. Like maybe you spawn them with so little ammo, but the higher rarity you get on your gun, the more you have in reserve. So again, this just makes the system more interesting and unique. But honestly, another thing they could do is just reduce the amount of tiers. Well, the thing is, the rarity system is here because of the loadout system. But why do we need 5 different tier upgrades? Why do we need red, green, blue, purple, and orange? When in reality, we just need 2. Loadout and normal. And so if they were to just axe all the other ones, you could keep the loadout system. It would also give you room to maybe introduce something like double tap 2. And so then rather than from upgrading your gun to like blue to purple to orange, you would be able to buy double tap. And that would incentivize players to not go down because then they would actually lose their extra damage temporarily. Plus, it would just make the rarity system less annoying, tedious, and just more simple. And so this next one is a different idea, but I think it would be pretty cool. So imagine if there was a grindstone that you could strip the rarity off of your weapon and get salvage back. Essentially, this is how the grindstone works in my Minecrafta. It strips the upgrades from your equipment, giving back a portion of XP, or in this case, salvage. And I think they could balance this to make it only be used on pack-a-punched weapons, so that you can't just hit the box and abuse it by just stripping every single weapon you get. And you know, this would allow weapon swapping and variety to be more doable in Modern Zombies. And so with that said, I've got a little special guest coming in here to touch on some stuff. Wait. Guys, I think there's a special guest. Guys, I'm gonna be honest, I've been talking for a while. I need a special guest. I really need a special guest.
Hey, why, thank you very much, Nova, for having me on your channel today. Look, I'm mostly focused on aesthetics, and to me, when I see a gun, whether it be on the ground or on the mystery box, pop up with a glowing hue around it that shows what rarity it is, it kind of draws me out of the atmosphere. But look, we're here to solve some problems, okay? Weapon rarities. And instead of the gun glowing a color, how about this? We have a piece of tape wrapped around the gun like you would find in some sort of zombie scenario. And that right there on the gun itself physically can show you what rarity it is without damaging the aesthetic of the game. I even got more. Look, check this one out. You could even have it on the barrel itself, right? And to me, it's simple details like this that can really change the game. Again, you know, armor kind of growing on me. Playing Modern Warfare Z, playing, you know, Cold War, for example. Armor is not technically the biggest problem in the world anymore, but I do believe the aesthetic is. You see, on Warzone, it's meant to have that military feel. Same, I guess, in multiplayer if you have shields. But we need something different, all right? And Zombies take an Ethereum crystal. And that's why I decided to make a mock-up of like what a different shield could look like. Something more zombified, if you will. An improved version of that mechanic, aesthetically matching Zombies, right? That's the point. We want the aesthetics to be on lock, okay? And if you like aesthetic, head over to my channel, guys. I'd love to have you. Nova, back to you.
Let's get back to business, boys. Up next, the point system. So first up, I want to talk about an idea I've touched on in a previous video. That being a points bonus that's added on top of the point system. Essentially adding an extra 30 to 50 points that you would be able to get by shooting zombies before killing them. And so this essentially keeps the new point system, but adds a bonus for weaker weapons and giving people a reason to not just use something like a shotgun. Or they could even just make it so that this is a unique feature exclusive to a couple weapon classes like pistols and SMGs. You know, the ones that are the most affected by the new point system. And I think another great idea for this is actually adding a point multiplier. So shout out to Zombies YouTuber Expert Fusion, who had the fantastic idea to add a point multiplier to the point system. So essentially this would keep it the same, but the faster you kill the zombies, the higher your point multiplier will be. So the normal system is there, but it would encourage you to actually try out high fire rate guns, just spraying to the horde to try and get that point multiplier up, essentially making those more of a viable option. But honestly, I really like this idea that I came up with. Adding a new specialist that gives you the OG point system. So you could call it something like 𝘖𝙤𝙤𝙢𝙾, and essentially it would just temporarily make all non-lethal shots to zombies give you 10 points. And so boom, if you want the old point system, there it is. But again, it's not broken because it's only temporary. And so if you pair something like this specialist with maybe an SMG, that class setup could get you a lot of points. And I don't know, I think it would help make some of those weaker guns more viable without even changing the core point system as it is. And so next up is the intel. Now there's one big problem I have with the intel, and it's that they don't keep the radios in the map anymore. In Cold War Zombies, how it worked is that you essentially pick it up and then it would play one time in the map and then disappear forever. Because me and a lot of other people didn't really give a crap about going and sifting through hundreds of pieces of intel in the menu, we never really got to experience those radios and didn't get interested in the story. And so I think it's a great quality of life thing, but don't make stuff disappear from inside the game, you know? And so I'm gonna kind of breeze through this one. The HUD, we all know it's a problem. Thankfully, we can turn a lot of stuff off now. And the thing is, everyone's talked about this. We all know how to fix it. You know, like adding the player icon in the bottom left, like that we had in Black Ops 3, Black Ops 4, changing the revive and self-revive icons, and just changing small things like the hit color for when you have armor from blue to red, because it just makes it feel more Warzone-y. But there's one thing not a lot of people have talked about that I think is a really cool idea. So I doubt they would just bring us classic HUDs as a just normal option. And so here's the thing, a reason that would encourage the devs to actually implement something like this is if you actually had to earn it in the game. And so they've already announced Easter egg rewards, but imagine if there was the incentive of earning classic Zombies HUDs from doing the Easter eggs. So maybe starting with something like Black Ops 1 or World at War, and then each Zombies map in the DLC getting its own unique HUD from the past. So boom, their player retention is up because people are trying to do the Easter eggs more to get the rewards, and the players are happy because we got a HUD that's not due to garbage. And the next thing, while you only really use it early on in the game, I think it has a huge impact on how Zombies feels, with that being the mystery box. And the problem is that in Modern Zombies, you almost never hit the box due to you being too powerful off the start, or not wanting to get a new gun because you've invested so much due to the rarity plus the pack-a-punch system. And so with the too powerful part having to be solved with the loadout system, I think the investment part can actually be solved with just a tiny little addition. I think it'd be sweet if they allowed you to transfer your pack-a-punch level. So essentially how this would work is when you hit the box and you find a gun that you really want to swap to, you could knife it and then transfer your current pack level onto that weapon for half the pack-a-punch price. Now, next up is another big one. Armor. So we all know the problem with this. It's too easy to get, it's too powerful, and again, it doesn't feel like zombies at all. And something I said in the previous video is to have it work like it does in World War II. And we could actually do this through something like a 𝘿𝙤𝙢𝙢𝙪𝙾 augment. You can make it so that when you have Jug and you're hit 5 times and then that final blow, no matter what, will always save you and break an armor plate. And so essentially it would be like a dying wish mechanic from Black Ops 4. And I think it being an augment actually makes it feasible to be added to the game, whether it's at launch or some point down the line. Another thing that is just a giant gripe of mine is let's not have a spawn with armor. If you want it to be something you could get early on, put it as a wall buy in the spawn room. Like, don't have you start with it. So then if you're experienced, you can kind of use those points that you would be spending on that to then maybe hit the box early or get to Jug early. But aside from how it actually works, how could we make it feel more like zombies? I think this would be super easy. Think about this. What if it was something like called ether plates, where instead of armor plates, you're using armor-shaped Ethereum crystals to protect yourself from the zombies? Or even imagine if it was like a blue 115 rock that kind of was in like an armor shape. It's essentially just an asset swap, but it would be sick. It's the same mechanic, but it feels like zombies. It's essentially how they used to do the shield. The shield was a straight rip from multiplayer in Black Ops 2, down to the weird mechanic of being able to place it on the ground for no reason. But it was made to look and fit each map. It didn't look like multiplayer. It looked like it was made out of prison bars, or it was in like a steampunk style. And so on top of this, imagine if armor on each map was aesthetically different. Like, even if it isn't super zombified, imagine if the plates on something like Terminus was covered in vines. Like, come on, man, like little things like that do so much. And next is actually another one that they've already kind of fixed before in the past, that being the equipment. And so a small gripe I have with this real quick is that I would love to just have the really good ones added to the box, like the monkeys and the new 𝘿𝙤𝙀 device, and also have them refill on a max ammo. I don't like that the main way you have to get them is to go craft them from the crafting table, and if you want to refill them, you have to go back to the crafting table and go buy another one. I really feel like that just kind of takes away from the fun gameplay of getting them from the box. But again, how do we make it more zombified? Well, it's super easy. Just make them all look and feel like zombies. Why should we have a multiplayer stim just completely ripped? It's the exact same, where you could just change the color of it and call it something like 𝘿𝙤𝙀. Have it work the exact same, but you know, it just feels like zombies, and it could even have a little bit of lore to it. It's like something like Black Ops 4 did this kind of thing, and it was awesome. It's like, dude, imagine if instead of the tomahawk, it just had the 𝘿's Retriever skin put onto it, and it had a different name called like the 𝘿's Eradicator. It's the same thing, but it looks and sounds like zombies. Now, again, going back to Black Ops 4, they did this where like the Semtex was instead an acid grenade, and instead of a Molotov, they had a Wraith fire. And you know, you could do that exact same concept, where instead of just a fire grenade like we have in Black Ops 6, it could just be like an Ethereum canister like what we saw in the Modern Warfare Zombies cutscene. Like, this is something they used to do in the past, but they don't anymore. And so with all this said, the final thing I do want to touch on is the difficulty. Now, the problem is that the game is way too easy overall, and we have a lot of fans that are advocating for the removal of features to kind of get some of that challenge back, and we have another big group of fans that are fighting against it because they don't want the way they enjoy playing the game to be removed. And so realistically is that we just need a way for everyone to play the way they want to play. We should all be able to enjoy the game. We shouldn't have to fight against each other to have some features removed or kept. Why not just add one more game mode for classic fans so that we can all enjoy the game? So again, this is something that the community has already been discussing, something like the classic mode, where they would try to add back old systems like the perk limit or the old point system or the shield, or something like I suggested like the hard mode, where it would disable our alter mechanics we've kind of already talked about in this video to make the game more challenging. So stuff like no armor, no loadouts, no rarity. And while I think those are great additions and they would do a lot for the game, I think actually my favorite idea so far would be to introduce match augments. And so essentially this idea would be the Extinction or Halo Skull system. And so for those who don't know, Extinction had something called relics. And so these would alter the game, making it a lot more challenging by disabling certain things, or maybe making the enemy's health way more, making your health less. But at the same time, every time you did that, it would increase your odds of getting teeth, the game's currency. And so why couldn't we have that back in Zombies with the augment system? The framework is already there for it. And so essentially it would just be more options on how to play the game, with everything just having an upside and a downside to it. And so here's a couple of ideas. You could get 25% more weapon XP from just disabling the loadout and having to start with a pistol. Or you get 25% more player XP for just disabling armor throughout your entire match. Or maybe you can enhance your gobblegum chances for high rarity gobblegums by only having classics enabled for that match. Or they could even do fun stuff like challenges we used to do back in the day on our own, like pistols only, where you could get 25% more weapon XP, but pistols are the only gun you're able to use throughout the entirety of your match. Or something like melee only, where maybe it increases the melee speed overall, but again, you can only use melee weapons that game. Or even just bringing back double tap through it, where it would increase your fire rate on all your guns, but all guns you pick up besides your loadout are automatically set to blue rarity. And so again, it it could also just implement old systems like the old point system, where if you enable it, you could get 10 points per bullet hit on zombies, but then your kill bonus is reduced by half. And while I think any hard or classic mode would be awesome for zombies, personally, I think this is my favorite idea, because rather than it feeling like you're taking things away, a system like this feels like it's more just adding stuff on top of it and enhancing the game. And yeah, that's about it from me. So what ideas from the video were your favorite? And do you actually have any of your own that I didn't mention? Let me know down in the comments. Also want to give a huge shout out to 𝘍𝙤𝙤𝙀 for both hopping in on today's video and for also making some of the sick visuals you saw on screen today. If you want more from me, you can check out my other Black Ops 6 Zombies videos on screen now.